Good morning. This is the Trigonometry Guide, Part 1. And I've taught this for 20 years now, and I want to share this with you of how to get good at sine, cosine, and tangent once and for all and to master it. It starts with this picture right here. This is a right triangle. Let's put some data about triangles here. Triangles, that's the abbreviation for that, have 180 degrees in their angles. So, for example, don't write on this because I'm going to undo this. This is a right triangle. So we're talking specifically about the right triangle, and that's 90 degrees. Again, don't write this down. If this was, say, 40, well, what side, how big would that angle there be? Well, it would have to be 50 because these two sides add up to 90. These two sides right here add up to 90 degrees. And 90 plus 90 is 180. That concept you have to know first. Okay, so let's look at that one more time in super slow-mo. If this was, say, 30, what would that be? I ask you. What would that be? Just say it to yourself. It would be 60. 60. Because these two have to add up to 90, and that's already 90. And it doesn't matter if this triangle is flipped like this. If this is 50, that would still be 40 because that's 90. And 90 plus 90 is 180 total. So this concept is huge. All triangles have 180 degrees. I'm just going to undo all of that. Okay. Now, what I want to show you is something called Sohcahtoa. Sohcahtoa. That's S-O-H. Write this part down. C-A-H-T-O-A. And this is a fancy way of remembering what sine, cosine, and tangent equals. Because this S stands for sine, this C stands for cosine, and this T stands for tangent. All right? So that if we look at the sine, it equals the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. Now, my goal of this video is to show you how to identify those sides. Because if you can't do that, then you can't do anything in trig. Hypotenuse. The cosine would be, well, what do you think? Well, it'd be adjacent over hypotenuse. C-E-N-T, the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And the tangent would be opposite over adjacent. Opposite divided by adjacent. Now, if you've had bad experiences with this in the past, forget that crap because we could do this. We definitely do this. It's not hard. It's just getting used to identifying patterns and just getting used to the math. So we have, if you look at all this stuff I have here, if you look at all of that, you have three words that are repeating. You have the opposite, you have the adjacent, and the word hypotenuse. That makes up all of this. O, H, and A make up all of these things here. So let's learn how to do O, H, and A. All right. Let's say this was angle. Let me make sure. How did I have that before? Okay. This is angle A. Let's put it on this one. Let's say that's angle A and this is angle B, right? And let's say I was at angle B and I knew that angle B was 60 degrees. Just throwing a number out there. And I want to identify the opposite side, the adjacent side, and the hypotenuse from angle B. How would I do that? Well, first thing you got to know is the longest side of a triangle. This side right here is called the hypotenuse. Okay, so this is the hypotenuse. And no matter what, it's always going to be the hypotenuse. If the triangle is flipped upside down like this, that's still the hypotenuse here. Okay? So the hypotenuse is the longest side. Some will say, well, it's the side across from the right angle, and that's true too. It's the side that the right angle opens up to. Now, what about the opposite? So if we have to identify three things here, the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent, I think identifying the hypotenuse is arguably the easiest, definitely. Now let me show you how to do the opposite side and be a little bit silly here. This angle, and again, I'm going to draw over top of this thing and draw pictures, and then I'm going to erase it all. This angle, this 60-degree angle here, that opens up like this. You can see that opens up like this. Okay? This side that's across, that red side that's across from that green angle is called the opposite side. Okay? We could say that the red side is opposite this 60-degree angle. So if you're visual, that is incredibly visual right there. You can see that opens up to the opposite side. Okay. Now, if this is the opposite side, which it is, we could say that this side is opposite angle B, and this is the hypotenuse, then what is this side called? Well, that's the adjacent side. By default, if it's not the hypotenuse and it's not the opposite, it's the adjacent side. All right, now let's look at it a different way. Okay, so let me erase a little bit of this and this. We're just doing some exercises here. And now, let me also get rid of that right there. Let's say this time we're up here at the A angle. And let's say I say that that's 45 degrees. All right, which side would be opposite angle A? Which side would be opposite this angle here? And hopefully you realize that it would be this side. It opens up to it, the opposite side. That is called the opposite side. So you can see that you can have the same triangle, and one side, 1 minute is the opposite side, and the next minute it's the adjacent side. And that's what makes this interesting. It depends on which angle you're looking from. If you're looking from this angle, this is the opposite side. If you're looking from this angle, well, then this is the opposite side. Hopefully that makes sense. Back to this example, though. If this is the hypotenuse and this is opposite, this would have to be the adjacent. All right, now let me get rid of all of this. Now we'll just go back to this. All right, so I'm going to put a question up here. I want you to pause it and try to figure this out, and then we're going to be out of time for this. Let's say that I told you that this right here was 40 degrees. Okay, we'll call that angle A for this one. You should be flexible with that. And we'll call this little a, little b, and little c. I want you to, in these blanks, to write the names of the sides using the words hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. And also tell me what the measurement of angle B is. All right, I'm going to pause this. I'll be right back. All right, what did we come up with here? So little a, this side, would be opposite that side. So that's opposite. That's the opposite side. Little side B would be the adjacent side. C, now usually, by the way, this is the hypotenuse, so you know. But usually C is referring to the hypotenuse. And that works for the Pythagorean Theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That right there is the hypotenuse. Okay? So it's the same concept, same thing. Longest side of the triangle. Angle B, how many degrees would that be? Well, of course, they have to add up to 90, so that would have to be 50. And this is just my out-of-the-gate little lesson on trigonometry. There will be a lot more in this series. Have a good one.